Well, happy Sunday morning. Guess who left their coffee upstairs? Yes, that would be me. So I'm here on Sunday morning without my coffee, unless I step aside and go back and get it. We'll maybe do that a little bit later in the show. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being here on an early in the day on a Sunday morning, 12 hours earlier than we normally are on for this program. And of course, this is not the formal the formal Intrepid radio show. This is just the informal Sunday morning. How y'all doing? And boy, it's bright and shiny in here, isn't it? I can't dim that light. Hang on a second. I am going to step over there and step that away a little bit because it's so darn bright. Let's do that. See if that's a little more helpful this morning. Woo, man. Okay, I'm still washed out, but that's the way it is. There, see, look. See what the camera does. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Glad that you're here. How's your Sunday morning going so far? I hope it's as good as mine. And however, there is some. I hate to start off with crappy news, but I want you all to take note of what happened overnight in Israel. And I thought it was kind of the top news of the day that ought to be mentioned, and that was that 6 hostages that Gaza in Gaza that were taken by Hamas last October were killed, I believe just yesterday or earlier today. And they were brutally murdered in Gaza, including the Israeli-American Goldberg Pollen. And these 6 people were killed very shortly before they were discovered by the IDF. And Israel's military says it's recovered the bodies of 6 hostages that were killed by Hamas militants in Gaza, including an Israeli-American captive, dealing a fresh heartbreak to the relatives who fear time is running out for all their loved ones that were seized by the militants more than 10 months ago. And the Israeli soldiers, the story goes that Israeli soldiers found the 6 bodies in tunnels under the enclave, according to the military. And the hostages were brutally murdered by Hamas terrorists a short while before they reached them, Israel Defense Forces spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said in a briefing just this morning. And 3 of those 6 bodies were recovered, had been expected to be released during the first phase of an eventual ceasefire agreement. And Hirsch Goldberg Pollen, Eden Yerushalmi, and Carmel Gat were slated to be released as part of the humanitarian category, based on a framework agreed by Israel and Hamas in early July. And our prime minister delayed it, one of the Israeli officials said. It's way too late for the 6 who have been killed, but it's time to reach an agreement. And the ordeal of California native Goldberg Pollen, who was taken at gunpoint at the Nova Music Festival. He's one of the kids that was not killed, mown down by Hamas machine guns while attending a music concert. That Goldberg Pollen, the father, Goldberg Pollen was led to believe that becoming one of the faces of the devastating international hostage crisis that challenged the leadership of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and triggered this widespread destruction in Gaza. And the parents of the 23-year-old Goldberg have been among the most vocal of the hostage families. And so this is something that just happened. And there is, of course, a widespread, um, uh, what would you call it? I'm looking for the right word for it. There are disparate points of views on this. Disparate points of views. Points of view. And one is that the ceasefire should happen, and the other is that the hostages need to be released before the ceasefire happens. And when you have an organization that will kill six of its hostages because they believe they're being zeroed in on by the Israeli Defense Forces, you have an organization that is not an organization that I'm not trying to be careful with my wording. I'm trying to think of the right words to say. They are an organization that does not deserve to be negotiated with. So that just happened earlier today in Israel, which was quite a number of hours ago. So that's what's going on over there at the moment. That is just the latest news from that area, from that war. The latest news that's happening in the negotiations over there. And let's see. I was looking up another news story on this. I want to see this. Yeah, there it is. I wanted to see how other news media outlets were stating what had happened and their points of view or their political bias. American hostage Hirsch Goldberg Pollen and 5 brutally murdered by Hamas right before their rescue, says the IDF. And Hamas terrorists killed 6 hostages Saturday, including Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Pollen, as Israel Defense Forces closed in for a rescue attempt in the tunnels below Gaza's Rafah. And Goldberg Pollen's family confirmed his death early Sunday. His body was one of 6 recovered on Saturday. The IDF revealed that Hamas killed the hostages who'd been held for nearly 11 months, just as they were on the brink of freedom. And according to our initial assessment, they were brutally murdered by Hamas terrorists shortly before we reached them, an IDF spokesman said. And Goldberg, 23 years old, was abducted at a music festival, the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel during Hamas's attack on October 7th. He lost part of his left arm to a grenade in the attack. His body was recovered on Saturday in the tunnels under Rafah, along with Carmel Gat, Eden Yerushalmi, Alexander Lobanov, Almog Sarusi, and Master Sergeant Ori Danino. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, "He who murders abductees does not want a deal. We're in a difficult day, and the heart of the entire nation was torn. Along with all of the citizens of Israel, I was shocked to the core by the terrible, cold-blooded murder of 6 of our abductees." So said Benjamin Netanyahu. And Israeli President Isaac Herzog said he embraces their families with all his heart and apologizes for failing to bring them home safely. And of course, we had word from, if you remember, he is or not, Joe Biden is still the president. There was word put out by him saying that they are working tirelessly day and night to help resolve this problem in Israel. And of course, he has for the last 3 weeks been on vacation. Most of the shots you see of him, he's sleeping on the beach. So I'm not quite sure what he's doing tirelessly day and night to help resolve this. But that's my take on what he's doing. So there is the current world news this morning, which is not how we normally start out Sunday morning. We're usually a bit more cheery than this. And I have my coffee generally, and I left it upstairs. So I have no coffee with me this morning. And so there is a sad start to this morning's show, but we'll move on from here and get into some other things. So how is everybody today? You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to step out and get some coffee. I'll be gone for 1 minute and be back. So let me just turn this on. If I'm not back by the time this is done playing, I would be surprised. So here we go. Everybody, you sit tight, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Raini Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hi, my dad. So he can take me to Disneyland.
Well, I'm back. All right. How's everybody this morning? Let's start afresh after that sad news from Israel this morning. And I hope you're all doing well this morning. Your morning's going a little better than that. And what's going on? For those of you who have never been here before, Sunday morning is more of a casual, laid-back approach to this show. It's just a time where we can all have a little coffee together on Sunday morning, maybe discuss some issues, talk about things going on, and et cetera, et cetera. I want to welcome everybody who's here. Spirit Heart Goddess, good to see you this morning, Cordia. And Susie Q, nice to see you. And who else we got? If I go back a little bit, we got Field Guys here this morning. I believe you were the first one in the room. And so welcome to Field Guy. And we have Morgan Snow, and Carlene is here this morning. Yeah, you're right. We keep funding them. Isn't that the truth? So, I got dog hair on everything. Look at that. Normally, in the old days when we did radio, you didn't have to worry about if there was dog hair on your clothes. Now you do, because there's cameras. So, Steph Cuervo Queen is here. Good to see you, Steph. It's been a while, off and on. Let's see who else we got in here. Randall Flagg, of course, is here every day. So, Randall, good to see you. And Nancy Planeta, new member, is here. You're a new member now? Welcome, Nancy. Good to see you. I'm glad that you're here this morning. We just talked last night. Let me take a sip of my caffeine. Yeah, and you too, by the way, can get one of these Son of a Patriot mugs. You go over to my Etsy page, and which is should be scrolling at the bottom, but it's not. It's etsy.com/shop/son of a patriot. And that is my cartoon rendition of my forebear, John Robards, who fought in the American Revolution. So you can get your cup just like that one. And where is that? It's going to be in the scrolling banner. There it is, scrolling banner. And you'll see it in there at some point. So how is everybody this morning? You can join me for good conversation here. If you want to call in and talk, you can do that. I'm going to slap that into the chat room. It is in the description, but here it is. Boom, that's the link to call in. If you're over on the Instagram page or the Facebook pages or the X page, you can come in here and did we lose the we lost the feed over on Instagram. I must have refreshed that page, which means it went away. So if you were listening over there, you can come into the YouTube channel. That's the best place to chat. And I was going to paste a link over there for you, but now I don't have to because apparently we lost that feed. So thank you, Nancy, for becoming a new member. She's showing her support. I appreciate that. So you can call in, Nancy, if you've got things you want to talk about. And that's all Sunday morning is about. Just being casual. Just doing what we got to do or what we want to do to talk. So, excuse me. And that is my coffee speaking back to me. And I did it quietly so it would not broadcast. So, I'm just looking at some of the posts that we've got in here. Scotty, I got to get my Cuervo on during the nice weather. Hope you and the family are doing well. So far, so good. So I'm glad that you're doing that. I hope everybody's going to have a good Labor Day weekend. You're only about 1/3 and a little bit through it. You got all day today and then tomorrow. So I hope you're all having a good time for your last hurrah to summer. This summer felt like the fastest ever, says Randall Flagg. And yeah, it did kind of go by rather swiftly, didn't it? And so, although there were parts of it where I said, you know what, it didn't go by very fast at all. It went by rather slowly because I had kids home all summer, which is fine and great. I love my children, but I have often said, now listen to my words closely, the best thing about working for myself and officing in my home is that I'm always around my wife and kids. The worst thing about working for myself and working out of the home is that my wife and kids are always around. Not so much Rainey, because Rainey did some work with my kids. Constant. And, the older kids seem to have friends that they would go hang out and do stuff with. Our youngest, our 9-year-old, just doesn't have any friends that are nearby enough unless we drive them somewhere. And now it's kind of funny. I think back to when I was a kid, and I lived in North Minneapolis. Well, we were actually just a block over the border from North Minneapolis into the suburb, and it just melted in. It wasn't like, oh, the world changed. I'm in Oz now. No, we were North Minneapolis, minus a block. And so but we lived in a neighborhood, nice suburban neighborhood, and we had kids everywhere. Everybody we knew was within walking distance. But of course, my best friend at the time, when I was, that I think back to my childhood and I say, well, there's different grades and different age levels, but the best friend I had from maybe 3rd grade up through 7th grade. Was a guy named Chuck. And Chuck lived about 10 blocks to the west of us. And just right up my street, 10 blocks and over 1 block. And you were at Chuck's house. And I'd go up to Chuck's all the time. He'd come to my place all the time. And if we didn't bike it, we walked it. And just about 2 blocks from my house was the city park, where we went all the time. In the wintertime, they had an ice rink and a warming house, so you could go skating. And in the summer, that warming house, the walls all were taken up, and it was an open with a roof, open air facility where there were park board activities. And we played at the park all the time. So meet you at the park. And of course, we didn't have cell phones. We did have television. Yes, television was invented just a short time before I was a kid. And but we spent our summer days outside. And that's all we did. We were outside for all that time. And Mom saw us leave and said, "Be back before dark." And that's the way it was. And it's not that way anymore. I would freak out if my kid was gone all day and I didn't know where they were. So, yeah, that's what we did on summers. Now, my kids were mostly around here. They'd all go off and do their individual things, or they'd run around, or they'd ask for money and for us to take them somewhere to buy them something that they must have. But they were around here most of the time. And Rainey would go off to work, and she worked at the Dollar General, still does. And I'm just making conversation here, by the way, though. You guys jump in whenever there's a part of this conversation that you want to talk about from your own perspective. But she goes off to work sometimes between 6 and 7 in the morning to help open up the store. And she insisted with them, "I'm not going to work afternoon, evenings, or Saturdays or Sundays." She said, "If you want me to work those, then I just won't be available for this job. Thank you very much." And they like her so much, they try to keep her around. They need her there. She's made herself very, she's not irreplaceable, but she's almost irreplaceable. And so she, even on her days off, she's always up there doing something. Needs to show somebody something. And it's a good thing we're only 2 minutes away. So, but with her gone during the week, generally a Monday through Friday thing, mornings to early afternoons for her. I always wanted to get much work done over here because there's constantly something wrangling with the children. So, yeah, at least your kid didn't ask you if you rode your horses to school. Well, they have asked. So, but I think kids nowadays, like everybody else, the younger age, can hardly fathom what life was like without cell phones. What life was like without 352 channels on your television. I grew up, yeah, we may have had a TV, but no remote. That's right. Exactly it, Carlene. We didn't have a remote. When we first got one, we called it the clicker. Why? Because it was click, 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 and it was this big box. It was chick, chick, to try to change your channel and or turn the TV on and off. And of course, then we had the rabbit ears on top of the television that usually had a coat hanger or a tin foil put on it to try to pick up better reception. Yeah, cell phones do, Randall Flagg, ruin horror movie plots. You're right about that. And because you can just call. So, yeah, we didn't have any of that. And our phone was, at my house, was a rotary phone. Hey, I think I'll call Chuck. It was 560-6470, something like that. It's still in my mind to call him. I called that so many times. So, All right. Yeah. Okay, you had the better one. We had to get up and change the channel and only got 3 stations. Carlene, we didn't have that clicker for a long time. We had to stand up and go walk to the TV and turn the dial. But the good thing is we didn't have 352 channels you had to dial through. We had 4. So ABC, NBC, CBS, and occasionally you would catch the PBS station. And they had a weird side station. It was on a weird channel, a UHF channel. And you had to flip the second dial to UHF to try to pick that one up. So that's all we had. Yeah, don't turn that dial is meaningless nowadays, isn't it? So what's this legislation they were working on to try to eliminate AM radio? Anybody know anything about that? So that just came to mind. I am just looking it up here right now. That there is an act in Congress.gov that's AM radio for every vehicle of 2023. That was a couple of years ago. I heard more about this. Cat, will you stop? Relent. He has been on me since I woke up I was up at like 4:45 this morning, and this cat has been relentlessly begging me for food, and I refuse to feed him. I fed him yesterday evening. He gets fed his daily supply and more every day around noonish. And every day he'll sit outside our bedroom door and you hear him meowing at 5 o'clock. Feed me, feed me. Now he's down here. Don't stare at me like that. I'm not getting up to feed you. You got food in your dish that you haven't finished. Go finish the food in your dish. Then come and complain to me. And that's the other thing. See, what I do is I take his dry food, his crunchy food, and I mix in his wet food. So he gets a little bit of both. And right now he's begging because he's got dry food left. Some of the stuff that was left over, but he wants to sit, he's begging because he wants new wet food. It's like, no, go eat what you got, and stop rubbing on me. Oh God, I hate that. You know why I hate that? Because when cats come up and they're rubbing on your legs, that is not for affection. He's begging for food, and it's like, get away from me. You get fed the same time every day your entire life. But he spends the first half of his day begging, and while there's still food in his dish. So he just wants, I want more of the wet food. So anyway. Yeah, there you go, Carlene. Carlene says, mine are doing that. Sometimes something in the air. Mine bats me in the face if I'm not awake at a certain time. Yeah, this one likes to sneak outside and spend the night outside, which is fine. Okay, fine. You can spend the night outside. Yeah, he's doing it to get my attention. He's not doing it. People go, oh, look at that beautiful cat. He's rubbing up against my legs. He's really affectionate and loving on me. No, he's not. He's trying to get your attention. Ricky Allen Mitchell, how you doing, Ricky? I went to high school with Ricky. A lot of people here in rural Minnesota that listen to the AM radio for news and the Twins game. We don't have money for internet and so forth. And I have an antenna, a TV. Oh, yes, I have 3 cats. Well, there you go. Yeah, and AM, why are they trying to eliminate AM? What's the deal with, I think it was originally trying to eliminate it from all new cars. So new cars couldn't have AM radio. Well, the sponsors of those bills told a lot of the story behind who was behind it. Why is there a congressional push for this? And now they're saying it was bipartisan, bicameral legislation that that was, I think that was to counter it. The bicameral. So this is your bipartisan bicameral legislation introduced to keep AM radio in new vehicles. They were going to take out AM radio. Can anybody tell me the reasoning behind why they wanted to eliminate AM radio from the radios they install in your cars? Is there something about the manufacture of those? Is there let's see, this was dated last May of 2023, and it says new bipartisan legislation is being announced in the House, the AM for Every Vehicle Act, to require automakers to maintain AM broadcast radio in new vehicles at no additional charge. Out of 20 of the world's leading car makers, 8 have removed AM broadcast radio from their electric vehicles. Well, this is electric cars. And so the AM for Every Vehicle Act is being led in the House by Representative Josh Gottheimer, along with co-leads, and it names them all. And the bipartisan bicameral AM for Every Vehicle Act will, 1, direct the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, if you didn't know that, to issue a rule that requires automakers to maintain AM broadcast radio in their vehicles without a separate or additional payment or fee. And 2, require any automaker that sells vehicles without access to AM broadcast radio before the effective date to rule clearly to disclose to customers the vehicle lacks access to AM broadcast radio. And 3, to direct the Government Accountability Office to study whether alternative communication systems could fully replicate the reach and effectiveness of AM broadcast radio for alerting the public to emergencies. Now, there's a whole lot more behind this. There are movements to remove AM radio. Some said it was to remove the access to conservative talk radio. Is that the case? What have you all found? What do you all know? What have you all heard? So, Nancy Planetta, you would be the person who would have an answer to that. You're saying, I'm assuming with AM bands, they'll claim it interferes with 5G frequencies, which is crap. It's more because AM bands are still able to be locally operated and controlled. There you go. It's a local operation and control. So content is still pretty open, she says. Randall Flagg, I had you up here. Where'd you go? They want to get rid of conservative talk radio because they can't compete. There's that. Let's see. Oh, Susie Q, you're back on the cats thing, which is still an open. Mine show affection that way. Most cats do. Definitely not always about food. Mine want me to play with them. Well, our cat he'll crawl up on top of my head if he wants to play. I'll be sleeping at night and find him sleeping on top of my head with his paw hanging in my face. And the first thing is like, oh, that's so sweet, but that's the same paw he digs in his cat box with. So that's always refreshing in the middle of the night. But I have found that the only time my cat comes and meows at me is when he wants me to feed him. And it's not like he's starving. I got to tell you, it's not like he's starving. He doesn't come and, oh, play with me. No, if he wants to play, he'll come up and he'll hop up behind my head on the sofa or he'll come over. He'll let me know he wants to play. But it's never with caterwauling. Only time he does that is when he wants me to give him food. And which is anytime I wake up in the morning. So, it gets old. So, what did I just hit? I hit a button. Susie Q. Mind show affection. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Nancy says satellite radio is what they want in cars. Again, controlled for profit programming. Controlled for profit programming. Yeah, you have satellite radio in your car. You have to pay for that. So, yeah, it's about control, says Susie Q. They've been wanting to eliminate talk radio for decades. Yeah, I know. Isn't that the truth? Rush Limbaugh used to talk about that years ago. Remember the fairness doctrine? Yes, I do. And anybody remember what the fairness doctrine is? And here, I'll give you a from the horse's mouth view of that. The fairness doctrine of the United States Federal Communication Commissions, the FCC, introduced in 1949, was a policy that required the holders of broadcast licenses both to present controversial issues of public importance and to do so in a manner that fairly reflected differing viewpoints. And so it was repealed. It was repealed in 1987. The FCC abolished the fairness doctrine, prompting some to urge its reintroduction through either commission policy or congressional legislation. The FCC removed the rule that implemented the policy from the Federal Register in August of 2011. So, what was the problem with the fairness doctrine in the first place? In 1985, under FCC Chairman Mark Fowler, a communications attorney who had served on Ronald Reagan's presidential campaign staff in 1976 and 80, the FCC released a report stating that the doctrine hurt the public interest and violated free speech rights guaranteed by the First Amendment. That's why it was eliminated in the first place. And there's an equal time rule that still exists in the media. You see it every time the president gets up to speak. The equal time rule, candidates for public office, it specifies that American radio and television broadcast stations must provide equivalent access to competing political candidates. There you go. So this gets into all kinds of other things. What I'm looking at here. What does the FCC prohibit on radio? Obscene, indecent, and profane content from being broadcast on the radio. Other than that, free speech is the name of the game. But determining what is obscene, indecent, and profane, what that can mean, it might be another ballgame altogether, depending on who you like to talk to. So there's that. Is there anything current that's going on in trying to eliminate AM radio? And is there any current reasoning behind it? Yeah, control your right, says Morgan Snow to Susie Q. And then if you want it, you have to pay extra. Well, there it is. They're trying to say if you want AM radio, that the car manufacturers can't charge for that as an option. Oh, you want the AM radio option? Well, that's going to cost you more money. So there is that. Nancy, there was something. Nancy and I were talking yesterday, and there was something I was going to say, and we got into other things. We were jumping from topic to topic. We were talking on the phone last night, and you had said something about, we were talking about health issues. You were asking about my red nose, and that Raph was noticing my red nose. And I was going to say, do you know that these lights I have accentuate that? I'm looking at the monitor right now, and I can see I'm really pasty and a really bright red nose in the cheeks. Well, if I'm under regular lighting, it doesn't really show up quite as much. I had somebody that I know personally. We went out to dinner. His wife and I went out to dinner a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I noticed on the radio that your nose looks an awful lot redder than it does in person. It's the lighting. So it's the way the lights are. It's the washout from the lighting. So, but Nancy, that's what I was going to tell you last night when we jumped into other topics. So anyway, yeah, that would be a deal breaker for me if I had to pay for AM radio. Yeah, exactly. Why do I want to buy a car where I can't get AM radio? Now, that might not matter to some people who don't listen to AM radio, obviously. I like AM radio because I listen to talk radio a lot. So my kids are like, can we listen to music and not your dumb news? So I like, if I drive around, I want to hear news. I want to be informed. So There is a picture. Yeah, there you go. Laughing. Let's see. Laughing my motherfucking ass off. Okay, that's what the extra M is. Okay, got it. So, Nancy, I don't know if you saw, I tagged you in those pictures. There was somebody that I saw their post yesterday, and Nancy and I were talking about this a little bit. That somebody had taken a picture of what they thought was a djinn, and it was a very interesting picture. And it's somebody who is part of the circles of somebody that hasn't been on the show for a long, long time, but who was at the Paradigm Symposium as one of our guests, and also was oh, by the way, Ricky Allen Mitchell, if you're still hanging out there, I've got another friend request from you. I'm thinking that's not really you, so just a thought. Somebody on here requesting to be a friend. So anyway, I want to find this picture of and show it to you and see what you all think of this. And Nancy, if you haven't seen that yet, I want to find that and put it up here and get your take on this. Now, this is somebody, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to share my screen because that's going to be the easier way rather than me downloading. Oh, Nancy, it didn't make me self-conscious. Not at all. It was an O2 issue with your health. Yes. Yeah, that's it. No, it doesn't make me self-conscious. It just, when I saw my glaring red nose in my monitor, I thought, oh, that brought that to my memory. Nancy, I didn't explain to you about it's my lighting. So, but Nancy, sit tight. I'm going to share my screen right now. And all of you folks, I want you to see this. This is interesting. I'm going to share my entire screen, of course. Share. There we go. Let's go over to my. Okay, this is the page. Now this is a repost of it. Somebody named Debbie Cartwright captured a djinn, or the claim is she captured a djinn on camera after exploring a site where they're said to live. And this is at Karahan Tepe, or as Andrew Collins would say, Tapai. And the original post says something extraordinary happened on our expedition to the Tek Mountains to visit another as yet unrecognized Taz Tepler site. We were told by the locals that the caves inside the tepe were the dwelling of 7 jinn, known as the Terrible 7. And after our inspection of the caves inside the hill, we descended back down and got in the car to leave. As we did, we noticed a figure on the hilltop looking down on us leaving. The picture was taken just as we pulled away in the car, which after the figure turned and disappeared over the hilltop back toward the tepe. And we spoke to the local landowners, and they told us that no one goes up that tepe without permission. And there was certainly no one wearing long black robes. The women in the nearest village wear colorful patterned long dresses, patterned colored headscarves. We showed the landowner this enlarged picture, and they said, "Jinn, what the hell is this thing? It looks like something out of Lord of the Rings. What do you think?" Now, here's the picture she got. That's the first picture she took right there. That's looking back at the back side of this hilltop. And you can see she's got it circled in red. Right here, this figure came out and was standing there. And as she enlarged this, that's a little closer. And it's like not at first, when I first got a glimpse of this picture, I thought it was a standing stone. But she said it turned and walked away. And there it is up close, where you can see, I don't know what kind of enhancement, if any, she did to this. But this is what she saw. You could see the folds in the fabric. No face, no details. And that's the image she got. And this Debbie Cartwright is wondering if this was a djinn. And this is who this person is. This is for Nancy, because I said I wanted to talk with her. And she's got that. Look at that. She's got that hilltop. There's the hilltop with nobody standing on it. These are other things that are up there. It was over in here where you saw the figure. And that's a great view of Karahan Tepe, 12,000 years old. Taz Templar's site is on the approach from the back. And so this is her page and some of the things that they do. I don't want to go through and show all of their stuff, but this is Debbie Cartwright. And I believe, and Helen Rasnar is this person. This is the one who reposted that. And she's at Stonehenge here. And so I wanted to show you that. I wanted to share that with you and see what you thought of that. All of you. Is that, Nancy, you might know. You might get a good feel on that. What is that? What does that look like to you? And I find it very interesting. So, of course, it's very subjective because nobody really knows what we're looking at there. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. So see you, Carlene. Have a good day. Did I hear Packens on the wind? Says Randall Flagg. Packens, Shire. Looks like it's floating. Did somebody call in? And because I think I just saw somebody pop off the screen. Nancy, was that you or was that somebody else calling in? I was over in another part of the browser calling up those other windows, and I didn't see. There you go. There's Nancy. Let's bring you in. Boom, Nancy. How you doing?
Hey, brother. I'm sitting here.
Lost your sound. I lost your sound. Can't hear you. I don't think it's me. Taint me. Nancy, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, there's a little blip from you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Okie dokie. Having a problem with my headphone jack. Lovely.
Yeah. They like to do that.
Yeah, I was trying to tell you I was backstage and I popped myself off backstage. It was pretty good. I enjoyed that. It was fun.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah,
I thought that picture was interesting.
It's hard though because you don't. I hate pictorial evidence because I want to buy into it every time.
I know.
And then my logical brain goes, okay, environment, lighting, know. I start going through the the lockstep regimen of it's funny too that we're talking about this because I was just on a local Florida site last night for hauntings.
Yeah.
And it's an amateur site. There's about 12,000 people on the site and everybody posts every day pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
90% of the time
you can't see what they're saying is in the picture.
Well, it's pareidolia. It's literally their mind making something off of a shadow or whatever. And then the other 9.99% of the time, it's shadowing, it's pollen,
right.
It's so it's,
and I think there are people that have put up pictures like that. I think, do you not know how to look at this stuff with a little more critical eye? Because I can find stuff all the time. You look in the wrinkles of that flag back there behind me, or the reflection on that picture up on the wall. You can find something in it if you look hard enough.
Well, and the thing is, I think I stopped responding on a lot of them because I feel wretched when I do, because you don't want to. I do believe in something after, so it's hard for me to sit there and critique. But I keep trying to tell people, when we say that the answer lies within frequencies and vibrations, we're not necessarily talking about pictorial.
Right.
We're talking
it's
about
not always something you can see.
Right. I said I always say your best form of trying to prove or disprove is usually audio. simply because audio we can capture where
Mm-hmm.
something comes in at, and we can say, well, that's a human. Listen, we know humans make sounds in this range. We know
Right.
mechanical objects make sounds in this range. So it's a little bit easier to put a scientific mark on it.
Yes.
And there's so much emotion. Usually, usually when people are posting things like that, it's because something's triggered them
Yes.
to think about it. And so it's like you, especially when people are posting pictures from 15, 20 years ago, which, believe it or not, that's a little bit easier for investigators to look at, because when we were in before digital cameras, when we had 35 millimeter film, it's a little bit easier to discern what a camera malfunction is, what a lens
Yes.
flare is. Digital high resolution makes it a little bit more complicated to explain to people,
Yes.
especially when you have like a digital file that's double embedded. In other words, it's taken a previous
Right.
digital file and it's marked it into a current photo. And it's like, no, you need to go back through your photo file
Yes.
and see if you can find a picture with a.
And of course, you also, when you're getting a picture like this and you look at it, you have to put a little, you have to look at the credibility of the person who's posting it. Is this just out of
Yes.
nowhere? Is this somebody I know? Is this a researcher? Who is posting this picture? And you're relying on what they think they saw at the same time with their explanation. Like, here's this picture. Randall Flagg says it looks feathery. Could it be much closer, like a bird flying by, appearing to be standing up on the hill? Well, the reason she took the picture was because they saw the figure walk up on the hill. And then turn around and walk away after they left. And she caught a picture of it. I don't know if this is after it had turned. I think it's walking away from them right now. And but turned and observed them as they were driving away. Now, this is interesting. I know this guy wasn't a djinn. We just didn't know who he was. John Ward and I, we were out in the middle of the Sinai desert, up on the mountaintop of Serabit el Khadim, and there were ruins up there. And this place is about as remote as you'd want to get. It's not an Egyptian travel to hey, come to Serabit el Khadim, get your tickets, because it's so off the beaten path. It's like 40 miles into the Sinai desert from the Red Sea on the other side, on the east side of the Red Sea. And it's 40 miles in, and you're in the middle of nowhere. And it was Sheikh Barakat that his people guided us up to the top of this. Now, they had built stairways, and there's some signs, government signs, that are put in place to say this is where you are, this is what you're looking at. And the Sheikh showed us his guest book. And it was a big, like a photo album guest book. You open it up, and there were like 6 signatures in it from the previous 6 years. And so there aren't many people that go out there. But here we are. We're up in the ruins, up on top of this, after climbing to the top of this mountain. And way off in the distance, there's some guy. And if, as memory serves, he was wearing a white galabea, which is the long-sleeved, long garment that drops to the ground, long sleeves, the typical thing you see of the locals. And he had a red, like a turban of some kind, or it wasn't really a turban, it was a headdress. Think Arabic, and on his head. And all I remember is red and white was what he was wearing. But it's like we're all like, John and I say, who's that? And he goes, that's probably a brother. That's probably just a Muslim Brotherhood watching us. It wasn't the Sheikh's man, as far as we know. So it was interesting, though. So,
Actually,
and he
if I
was
was
just
going to
far off in the ruins watching us. And so we didn't know where he came from.
If I was going to hazard to guess, Scotty,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say that's a male. I'd say that's a female.
That's what I thought. It looks female to me. That was my first impression. Without thinking about it, I thought, oh, it's a female. It's dressed like a female.
Yep.
And
well,
it's
the
heavy robes
traditionally. Yeah.
It's almost traditional.
Yep.
And very heavy cloaks, very heavy traditional garments that you would see them wearing. but she was out on the top of the hill watching them.
Yep. No, and let me tell you, no fun wearing those garments over there. None at all.
No. And this is in Turkey, is where this is, folks. If you didn't know where Karahan Tepe is, or Göbekli Tepe. What are you saying here, Steph? I find myself going through the list that Kenny Biddle goes through to see if things are real or faked or unexplainable. I've seen that list and I have not memorized it. I know who Kenny Biddle is off the top of my head, and that's it. But it rings a bell. Susie Q gets so.
Well, and
gets
it's hard
the same
because
feel.
there's so many myths and lore and legends surrounding the jinn, and it's multicultural. And it's very, very old. I mean, people think jinn and they automatically think Arabian Nights. And it's like, no. It's way more ancient than
Arabian Nights.
I
think of Robin Williams.
Way older than that. And there's good reason to follow along. Sorry about the dinging. I'm in my vehicle.
No, that's okay.
If you do some serious research on the jinn, something Scotty and I were discussing yesterday on the phone. Believe me, when we get on the phone, we're all over the place.
And we're all over the place. We talk about 20 different topics.
I know. Politics, health, jinn, you name it, it gets thrown into the subject matter. But that's why we've been friends for 20 some odd years, because we can literally go those directions with each other without a problem.
Exactly.
But the jinn, it's kind of like the Native Americans, where I believe some of their lore was really misunderstood, and purposefully. Even with the pagans, it's the same way. We allow certain things to be misunderstood because we don't want your nose in our business, basically.
Yes.
So sure, you want to be afraid, go right ahead. It's just probably be to your benefit to do a little bit more research, but it's kind of one of those, if you're not meant for this type of information, then fine, be afraid of it.
Yes.
I kind of find that the same with the jinn, same with the Wendigo, with the Native Americans. It's more of a neutral, in my thought process, it's more of a neutral type of an entity that takes on qualities in accordance to its surroundings.
Yes.
So if you're negative and you're there to do things that are going to go against the culture we're talking about, like with the jinn, you're looking at, actually it's older than the Islamic culture, way older. So you're just kind of looking at that ingrained ancient culture over there.
Yes.
If you're there to create issues, the jinn's not going to react very nicely. And the jinn is a trickster. So that's not a fun entity.
And as you and I were talking yesterday, the jinn can be a lot like we think of the stories of the Fae and Celtic culture, Nordic culture, is that they could be incredibly what's the word I'm looking? Beneficent, magnanimous. What's the word I'm looking for? Benevolent. That's the word I'm looking for. Or they could be just the opposite and be incredibly dark.
Yes.
All depending on how you either recognize them or did not recognize them.
Yes. Or in other words, your intentions.
Your intentions. Exactly.
And the same thing falls true with the Wendigo. And I've always said that. You go into Wendigo territory, Native American, where a tribe has called a Wendigo down, usually it's not to hurt people. It's there as a protective measure.
Yes.
So you go traipsing on Native American burial grounds and you don't know what you're doing and you're playing games.
Right.
Oh, it's not going to go well.
Right. Oh, let me take one brief sidestep here to Roger Rabbit and to Carly Sagan. Happy birthday to Kinsey, 10th birthday today. Happy birthday. If you're still listening, Roger, if you guys are still there, I saw your message and put it up. So say happy birthday to Kinsey from all of us and hope she has a wonderful day. So Nancy, and I also told you, and you and I talked about this again last night, but I'm just going to throw this up here too. Take a good look at this picture. And of course, I had this picture from Saqqara, where that is the photo that I caught. This was the original photo, well, part of the original photo. As you all know, I was sitting on a stone way back on the far right of the picture. I was sitting up there having a smoke, and I went over to another part of the courtyard, looked back to where I was sitting, and took a picture. And then, of course, this image on the far left is emerging from the behind the stonework. And then this was the close-up. That was not John in his tweed suit coat. That was not any of the Egyptians in their long-sleeved white or blue galabeas. That was nobody that we saw that was there at the time. And as you all know, who are regular listeners to this show and have seen this story before, I stepped out right after I took this picture and took a picture down the lane, and there's nobody there. And so it's this is the interesting stuff. And
We'll take a look at the finger length on the picture. That's the one thing I'm going to do. Do take a look at the length of the finger, if that's a finger. I mean, because that's what, again, my pareidolia is telling me. Okay, that's an arm, hand, fingers.
Right.
But if you look at it as that, look at the length of the fingers. That's not normal.
It's not normal.
If you were to do a side-by-side comparison, you're looking at it going, oh, okay.
And another thing that's not normal about this picture is how far off the ground he actually is. So what's interesting here, I'm going to upload the total long shot on this that many of you have seen before when I've talked about the story before. This shot right here. Now this is the original photo. Now I was sitting almost dead center on this photo, and a little bit to the left, that long piece of limestone that's sitting horizontally. I was sitting up on that rock having a smoke, and or the one just down below it, the step below it. And if you do a straight line over to this figure, you see him emerging from behind the stonework. But then look at where the ground level is. If you go way back, that figure would be much smaller if he had gone back, if it matches the ground level down there. It would have been a much smaller
Scotty,
figure.
If you could estimate, how many feet were you from that?
Well, I can show you.
Maybe 150.
I can show you. Do you see the block work he's emerging from behind? Yeah. It's kind of stepped up. There are blocks missing, so there's kind of a step work going on there. It's like, look across the other side of the page where this cove top temple that's crumbling over there. It had there were a series of these all the way along. You can see the pits all the way along going off the right center where these other temples were built. And there's like front porches on all of them. And you see them kind of in the foreground of that. You see these grayed out shadowed from the shadow of the sun. They all had these little porches that were going on in front of them.
Yeah, but nothing is as dark as that is. That's another thing that's kind of it's appealing in this, because it's darker than the surrounding shadows, because that's one thing we look at. Let's look at continuity.
So what am I looking at is the question that comes up. This is the shot I took here. I'm loading it up right now. So this is when I first saw it. And by the way, I didn't see it the year I took it. I saw it 7 years later when I was showing this picture to someone else. And so if you were to take this shot, go to the closer shot, there's where you can see him emerging from behind. You can see where ground level is. See the clearing on the ground at the lower left? That's the ground as it would have run up to where you might be standing. Look at the stone wall in the background. The low stone wall you can see with the rubble in front of it. You can see where ground level. And then you get up close and you can see what we're looking at here. Now, this is a picture I took. If you were looking at this thing right here in the long shot emerging from behind over on the left, I stepped down off the porch and took this shot. So now you can see, if you look almost dead center in this photo, You see the far distance of the lane. Go just to the left, and you see that crumbled wall that's got that stepped stonework on it. And that gives you an idea of depth perception from where I took this. Now, I had been, okay, let's see if I can describe this visually. Go to the center, the dead center of the photo, and go directly to the left. There's a little opening there with a couple of steps that go up onto the porch of one of these cove top shrines here. That's where I was standing when I took a picture back toward where I had been sitting. I was standing in that little notch in the wall, up on a step. And so I'm picking up at an angle that broken stone wall from behind which I'm seeing a figure emerging. Now you can see the distance. Can you make out what I'm saying here? You see
Yep.
that little bit of if you look dead center in the photo and go to the left just slightly, you see that broken wall right there that steps up. That's where you see him emerging from behind. But look how far back this goes until you get to the end of the lane. Here, I'll call this up again for perspective. Right here. If I go to this one again, there's that broken wall on the far left, and there's that figure emerging. And then there's the close-up again. And there's the original shot where you see him on the far left. And then I stepped out. I took a few steps down the lane and turned and took another shot down the lane, and nobody's there. And the little bits of rubble you see way in the background on the left, that's the base, starting to see the base of the stepped pyramid. So that's where this is. So,
well, it's interesting because,
there you go.
Okay, as really weird as this is going to sound, it reminds me of Anne Rice's description of Lasher. Anybody who's familiar with Anne Rice and the Mayfair witches, you would know the character Lasher, and he's described as what they called a Taltos. And I think eventually she put his origin to Atlantis, but he was very, very tall, but gangly with very elongated fingers. And I always thought when she wrote that, I thought, that's really strange because you've heard these descriptions before in the UFOlogy fields, and you hear them scattered throughout culture historically. And you got to wonder if there's something to it. And now seeing that picture, I'm like, oh my God, that reminds me of the description so crazily. It's like, but it's not creeping me out. You would think it would creep me out. It's not creeping me out at all. Because I know what happened to you on that trip. I know the spirituality that you literally had to embrace. There was no choice. It would not allow you not to. There was no getting around that, Scotty.
None.
And I got to wonder if this was kind of your reminder 7 years later. Hey, I was there. I was there with you, brother. I was there.
Right. By the way, Randall, maybe it's a camel's rear end and a tail, or Steph said maybe if you don't brush or condition a horse's tail, they can end up looking like that. Well, here's the problem. We were all over this site. Nobody else was there. And it wouldn't have been, oh my God, how did a horse get in that picture, or a camel? There were no horses or camels. So this is not a big touristy site. And especially not the day I was there. There are donkeys on the site, but you have to go all the way over to the other side of the step pyramid to get to a couple of guys who have a couple of donkeys, and they put you on the donkey and run you around so you can take pictures. There was no donkey here. And so there you go. It's just for the sake of saying, I hear people do that all the time. It's like Carl Sagan's there's a purple dragon in my garage. Oh, well, I don't see it. Oh, well, it's invisible. Why don't we put flour on the floor? Oh, well, he floats. And so there's a different argument for every argument everybody brings up. The thing is, John and I were there and nobody else was there. There were no horses. There were no camels. And you can see even by this picture of this lane here, when I put this up, that's going down, looking in that same direction. There's just nobody there. So those are great skeptical ways of looking at things. Healthy skeptical. Are you sure it wasn't a horse or a mule or a camel or something? Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Hey, Scotty, do me a
Leave no
favor.
stone unturned, he says.
Pop
What?
the bigger picture up real quick because I have Raphael sitting with me and he's asked me
This
what we're
one?
doing. So, yeah, hold on.
Oh, good.
Hey, Raph. How you doing?
Hey,
Raph.
Scotty, what's going on? What is that?
How you doing?
How you doing?
So there's the picture. Raph, just so you get to see it. That is where I was. John Ward and I were at Saqqara. The stepped pyramid of Djoser is off to the left. This is a courtyard that sits adjacent the stepped pyramid. It's 3,500 years ago. And the sides, both sides of this courtyard were lined with these coved temples that look like these. This is two of them that are reconstructed on the left. There's that one on the right over there that's still crumbled out. Well, I had been sitting in this photo. The reason I took this photo was I had a little bit of my regular listeners who've heard this story before, we're just talking about it. So sorry if you've heard it before. Just enjoy it again. I was sitting on that stone. You see way in the background, almost in the center, you see a long horizontal stone. And there's like two layers of it, a lighter one and a little darker down below it. I was on the ones down below. Those are just big stones that they built with. And I'm sitting on one of those having a smoke. And I had what I can only call a vision. I'm not given to visions. I'm not. And for those of you who've heard the story before, please enjoy it again. As I'm sitting there, you can see what the sunshine was like. It was just 5-10 minutes before I took this picture. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, this whole courtyard looked again like it would have looked 3,500 years ago. All of a sudden, all these little shrines with the cove tops are all fully constructed. There's no rubble in the middle. It's like an open parade ground in between, or in the middle of that courtyard. And all of a sudden, I see a line of priests, is how I describe them, walking toward me. If you're looking at this picture, if I'm sitting on that stone in the background there in the center, right along where you see all these dark shadowed parts of the rubble there's a lane on this other side, that they were all coming toward me down that lane. And about halfway down, they turned to the left, their left, and started going to the other side of the courtyard. And they're all bald, bare-chested, white kilts, and they're carrying trays that have like little canopic jars all over them. And they turn and they're chanting. And so they're all walking in a straight line, and almost like military. The first one turns and goes, then the next one turns and goes, and the whole line turns to the left. And what I saw while I'm sitting there is this whole courtyard reconstructed. All these cove-top temples were all there, all the way along on the right side here, all the way along on the left. And out of the tops were long poles that were torches that stuck out 6 to 8 feet, and they were all lit. The courtyard was clean here. There were no rubble or ruins laid out in them. Everything was pristine. The sun was low in the sky, and it was casting a long shadow from the left here, the long shadow coming down, because that would have been to the west. So it's closing in on sunset. I could smell incense burning. I could feel the breeze. I could hear the chanting of the priests. And this is all while I'm still in this photo, way down at the far end, almost right in the center there. I'm sitting on a stone looking back in this direction. And that vision must have lasted just a couple of seconds, and I blink and it's gone. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And John's just poking around in the ruins somewhere, looking for hieroglyphs and things like that. So I got up and I walked from that center way in the background over to what you're seeing on the left side here. And I was inside, way up in the foreground on the left. You see how these all look in front of these covetop shrines, there's like a little entryway and stairway that goes up onto an external porch, for lack of a better way to put it. These little patios in front of each one of those covetop temples. And I was inside the one of this, if you look on the left side, that closest covetop temple that's reconstructed, I was on the porch of that one in that little entryway down on the path, looking back when I took this picture. And I took this photo to show where I'd been sitting in the center there. And I didn't notice it. This was in 2013. I took this picture. So now 11 years ago. About 7 years ago, something like that, a friend was going to Saqqara, and she was talking to me online and wanted to hear this story about this vision thing. And I told her, and I called up this picture, and I'm looking at it, and I blow it up, and I scroll over, and I see that dark figure coming out. If you look at the crumbled stonework on the left side of this photo, you can see that figure emerging from behind. And I thought, what is that? And I zoomed in on it with her on the line with me, and I go, what the hell is that? I said, I've never seen that before. And as I'm zooming in, I can see this. And there's that figure. And I said, that looks like, the first impression in my head was, and I wasn't even thinking this way. It was just what hit my head was, wow, that looks like a lot of the Bigfoot photos you see, where you see partial images and this and that. And then I zoomed in on it really tightly, and this is what's there. And
Well, I
it's
mean,
go ahead,
yeah, I
Nancy.
mean, the only thing I'm thinking is because I'm trying to process, okay, what could it be that's tangible?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm thinking it could be a scarf, it could be something hanging off a backpack. But again, you're telling me that really you and John were pretty much the only people there, and John was not in that area.
No, and John was kind of in that general area, but John was wearing his light tan tweed suit coat and
Did
a vest.
you show it to John?
Yeah, I showed this to John, and he was wearing a vest and I think a checkered shirt and his red cravat, and he had a red paisley scarf, and of course his fedora and all of that. Now the thing about John at this time is that John, the suit coat he wears, is very square-shouldered. The construction of the suit coat. It's not a curved shoulder. It's not like a raglan sleeve, which is so what we thought we were seeing here is the curved shoulder of somebody not wearing a shirt. And you're getting the sun reflection. I had wondered at first, am I seeing the open coat or something here? What looks like the hip coming down. Is that his open coat?
There's no statues in that area, because
No.
that could almost be, I mean, you know how the Egyptian statues stand, and I'm thinking, well,
there's no statue there. And generally you didn't have free hanging hands and arms. They were usually out of relief out of the statues. Just for the fragility of an arm like that that's carved into a stone. I wish I had a picture of John dressed how he was dressed, but I tried to compare. I thought, if that's John, there's going to be telltale signs, because he was over, like if I throw this shot up here again, this one, he was over in all these ruins over on the left, and
his arms aren't that long. Go look at John's
his arms aren't that long, and on top of that, I looked at how the cuffs of his suit coat hung and the cuff of his shirt underneath. And this has no cuff. And I thought, is it maybe just the angle of his arm? And maybe you're not seeing the cuff. And so I thought through all the little minute details of how this could possibly be John, or how it could possibly be one of the guardians on the site that had the very loose, open cuffed, almost down to their knuckles, open shirt sleeve that would hang. you would have to have somebody taking that fabric and pulling it tight in order to get that angle where you're seeing this part of the arm as narrow as you're seeing in that picture.
Well, not
Same with
just that,
John as
but
having a suit coat on.
the fingers
And the
like
colors on top of that. You can see by these photos, why would you get, as Raf said, an incredibly dark image like that against when all the other colors are bright and bold? Here, this one's shows the contrast in colors.
And there's no portico or entry in that area, right? There's
You
no
can,
doorway.
if you walk you see where he is there, that image. If you walk all the way back to that low stone wall way in the center, you see it way in the background there, you can turn there and go to the stepped pyramid, which is just off to the left here.
Yeah, but that's still not, I mean, I'm looking because that's such a solid black.
Yes.
I'm trying to look at something that reminds me. The only thing I can see are like the porticos. The like there's a little side entry there that's coming off.
Well, they kind of come to an end. Let's see if this gives us a little better perspective. I've got a diagram of the courtyard here that was drawn up, and we'll see if you can get a better perspective here. This is how this thing would have looked. Okay. It's a little technical here, but there's your stepped pyramid up on top. And right down below it, you see the Hebsed Court. And you can see, if you look very closely, looking in the yellowed area up above, you can see all those cove-top temples. There were several of them, 8 or 9 of them across the back side of that and the front side, and then the courtyard down the middle. Now, I pulled that out, and I'm showing more of a line drawing of where I was. Down in the lower left, you see the spot where I was sitting earlier, right there. The approximate position of the figure that appeared was right there. The place where, you can't see because I've got my banner up on here, but the place where I was sitting or standing when I took the picture, right here, the vantage point while I took the photo was right about in there. And 2 of these cove-top temples are what are left standing there that they've rebuilt in the center there. So that's kind of the position of it. You can see where the stepped pyramid is in relation to where this courtyard is. The corner of the stepped pyramid comes right up back behind these temples. So when you're looking at this picture right here, no, not that one. Is it this one? Yeah. If you look back, you see the shrines on the right here, or I'm sorry, on the left that are reconstructed. Look just behind that against the blue sky. You can see just the nip in the background of the bottom of the stepped pyramid. So you could go all the way down to the end of this lane and turn to the left, and there was as wide as this pathway is here. The little path that just walks you right over to the step temple or the step pyramid. So,
yeah, that's a picture I don't think you're ever going to be able to figure out because you really can't repeat the circumstances.
All I can do with this picture is tell you what it's not.
Yep.
It's not John. It's not one of the guardians. It's not an animal. It's not a scarf hanging from anything. As this picture would dictate right here, you're looking down in the same area. There's nothing else there in the middle of the picture where that thing was. You can see, now take a look at the height of go look way down the lane here and see where the ground level is and where the wall is that it would be emerging out from behind. And take a look at this and say, how tall is that thing? Right here, you see where the ground level is on the far left and where that's standing. There's not like stonework that John would have been standing because there's not stonework right there. No. So this thing, in order to be that high off the ground, so is this something floating there? That's another question. Is it floating off the ground? Is it just really tall with really long legs? It's certainly not a horse or a camel. It's too dark to be somebody in a white or a light gray galabea. It's not John in his light tan green tweed sport coat. So what the hell are you looking at? There it is.
It's large, whatever it is. It's not.
It is.
I mean, that's the thing. You got to look at it and put it in perspective at distance.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's whatever it is. It's large.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Susie Q saying, I think he's really tall.
I think he's really tall.
Whatever it is would have to be, if it's humanoid, it would have to be very tall.
Yes. So as you look at that, I wanted to find this this photo of John that shows you what he's wearing, and just so you get an idea.
Mind's eye image, John.
John. Say that again.
Dude, I said I think we can all do a mind's eye image of John. He's
like, oh yeah, most everybody knows what John looks like and how John dresses, and I was just gonna see if I had one handy right away to show you how he's dressed. Let's see. I'm gonna look at the Sphinx. This is probably not the very best one. The Sphinx Avenue shot. Let's see if I can find that. But as we're looking at this, that's oh, I know a good way to show this. Hold on. So this is just to get as we're looking at this, I want you to get the idea of, as you look at that, see how that thing looks, then imagine the only other person that was there with me was John. And you're in this wide open space like this, you're going to notice if somebody's walking in on you. Oh, hey, or you wave, hey, Guardians, we're over here. There's no way to miss anybody. So if I were to say, here, I'll do this. While we're talking about this, I think this is important as only for the sake of showing this is what we go through when we try to decipher what we're looking at. And I went through this whole thing, this whole process. So let me do this one more time. I'm just going to share my screen. And you and Raf, you guys look along on this as well. Let's see. I'm going to do the entire screen again so I can get over here and show my tabs. Okay, there you go. Boom, whoosh. All right, I'm going to go over here to my Facebook page and my albums I've got called up here. Now, this would be this little picture right here, how John's sitting. You can see him in the middle here. That shows you that's exactly what he was wearing, except he had a red scarf on. But I'm looking to see if I've got a picture of him at this site. Suez Canal. I'm looking for Saqqara. Tombs of the Nobles. Karnak Temple. Might he be in there? A good shot of him in here. No, not in that one. Just so you're already getting the impression. This is how John dresses. You guys have seen John 100 times. And okay, here we are. We're out at Sarabat el Khadim in the Sinai Desert. This is exactly, save for the color of the scarf, what John would have been wearing at Saqqara. So this is how we were both dressed that day. And so you get the idea of the coloring of his clothing. We're standing in the shadows here, so you get an idea. And so that would have been the same thing that John was wearing when I took this picture. So he was, this, by the way, is not John. So, boom, that's all that to say that. That's what you go through when you're looking at things to say. I was trying to find exact shots one day when I was researching this photo. I looked through all the pictures I had from Saqqara, which I've got. And I've got pictures of him walking around and both of us at Saqqara. The picture of he and I on the donkeys. Remember that? We were looking for a name for history trippers, and
Yep, that
Nancy
was a
was the one that
classic
came up with
picture.
two blokes on an ass.
Two blokes on an ass. That's right.
And so and that was taken the same day as this. So so I was looking through all those photos, and I couldn't find. And while this is not stellar radio conversation, this is the process we go through when we're trying to figure out some of these things. And what are we looking at? Why is that there? Why does it look that way? It's not a camera anomaly. It is somebody is there. You can see an arm, a shoulder, an arm, a thumb, and fingers, and a hip. And that hip is either ends right there at the bottom level of the fingers, or it looks like it could be trailing off, but that could also be the stonework on the background. You see that there are those vertical striations of white coming down. That could just be, it looks like it's lined up perfectly with that. So it might look like that thing is fading off a little bit toward the bottom. Also, John's suit coat, that is not the tail of his suit coat. You know why? The tail of his suit coat is a couple 3 inches longer than the dropping of his fingers.
Yep.
So, so that is not a suit coat. It's not a. There you go. There it is, Nancy. That's it.
Well, it's hard because again, this is why I don't like pictorial evidence because
right,
you cannot. They always say follow the scientific method, which is your best way to an answer or conclusion.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you can never recreate exactly the circumstances under which you took the primary picture.
Right.
Ever. There's no way to do it. And I tell people that it's just, you have to look at everything, where the sun was at, what time of year was it? Was there fog? Was there clouds? Was there, I mean, you would have to literally go exact day, exact time and have
speaking of that, the sun, where the sun was, the time of day, etc. Take a look at this picture. You've got something that is reflecting light on what would be the shoulder area, like the shoulder to the pectoral muscle. You've got something reflecting light there.
Yep.
You've got something reflecting light down around below the elbow area over onto the main body that's starting to go behind the stonework. So you've got a little bit of reflection of light on there. So if this were a person wearing a light-colored suit coat or wearing a light-colored galabea or their skin, that would show you, because you've got reflection of light already. Why wouldn't it, if the skin was lighter in color, other than this dark, deep, shadowy color, why wouldn't you see that lit up in the light as well? Look down at the fingers. Those fingers are a bit illuminated by light. And so you look at all that, and you say, now, Randall said something about, is he standing on a structure? Well, that's why I brought up this picture. If you look way down there, way down the lane, there is nothing there for that figure to stand on. You see almost in the middle of the shot here, that wall on the left that runs all the way down. There's nothing there for anybody to stand on to have him elevated off the ground high enough for that picture, or standing out that far from those stones on the left. He would have to be flush with the wall if he was standing on the structure itself. There's something way out there. That figure, from the look of it, would have to be 10 feet away from the wall on the left to emerge like that.
Yep.
So that's what's interesting about it. So,
but again, see, I took us down that rabbit hole. Because again, pictorial. That's why I don't like dealing with pictorial evidence, because you're as an investigator, secondhand observing, you're not there. You don't know the conditions. Now, there's certain things you can absolutely rule out. I mean, and I'll tell you, other investigators are the worst people on the planet to have to look at their photos, because they were there and they were conscious of all conditions at that moment. Right. Whereas when you're not, you're brought in secondary and said, hey, look at this. What do you think? And you're looking at it going, oh, that could be a reflection of that tree right there, cast from, a window from the building across the street. I mean,
Right.
you have to look at all the light angles. I don't know what time of the day it was, so that makes it more difficult.
Well, see, and that's why I like to show this picture along with this to say,
Yeah.
when I took this picture where the guy is originally way over on the left, you see him emerging real tiny on the left, emerging out from behind the stonework. Then I stepped off of this porch and walked up a few steps and turned around and took this shot. So these shots were taken not even a minute apart. So there's nobody in the shot, and it's showing the lighting, the setting, and all of that. Just to that's what you got. And you had
it's
the
super
bright
solid.
sunshine. It was probably around noon. You can even see by the shadows what time of the day it probably was. So
It's super solid too. Like I said, in respect to the other shadows, that
yes,
is a really, really super solid black.
that's it.
And the only other place I saw that in any of the pictures was in an entryway, and it was simply because it was absolute lack of light and the way the sun hit that. But that shape
Right.
completely forgoes that thought process.
And of
So
course, what you're seeing here in these folds where you see, look what, like at the top of the shoulder where the chest would meet the shoulder or the hip, whatever, is a lot like this shot where you're seeing some of the illuminated portions of whatever this person is wearing in this robe. You're
the
seeing, I'm
gray.
not comparing them to say they're the same thing, the same kind of lighting effect. You got a dark image that is showing some highlighted areas. Like
That picture I'm
that.
still going to go back to, though. That reminds me of a woman in
Yeah.
mourning.
Yeah.
That would be, to me, that would be a traditional Turkish woman in mourning.
And
That's
what that looks like.
first thought.
And
Yep.
that's why they asked the people in the village there, what does this look like to you? And they say, that's a jinn. Was their response. So
But there
there you
again,
go.
in that society, in that culture, they look at any woman who stands outside of society as a jinn. So
Right.
we have that.
So, and that was like, I've told this story 100 times too. On John and Maria's site of Gebel El Silsila, there's a story of their dig house was a big old boat, a big dahabea, and it was moored at the Spayas of Horemheb right on the Nile River. And that was where all the desks were, and the bookshelves and the tables all up on the open deck, covered by canvases, and the cabins were all underneath. And the workers would all, if they didn't go home to the village, the workers on the site working for John and Maria, they would go down in the hold, and that's where they slept. And so one day afternoon, one of the workers comes screaming, Egyptian workers screaming in off of the site, up the gangplank and onto the boat, yelling that he just saw a jinn in the rocky shoreline. And within 5 minutes, every single worker on that site was running up the gangplank and down into the hold in the middle of the afternoon, that they had seen a jinn. And they all sat in the hold and smoked shisha all night and never came out again until sunrise the next morning. So, and John told me that story. He says it would have been right there. We're sitting on the boat one night, and I opened the lens way up to try to get some good nighttime shots of the area. So
it's funny because we're talking about John, and I went to look on Facebook to check your picture file when you were looking for pictures.
Yeah.
And John actually popped up on my feed because he had posted something about Dracula. And I'm like,
I saw that.
Being at right now.
Yeah. So,
but yeah,
well, there
I mean,
you
it's like I said, the cultures, the introspective look, understanding the culture and how old the culture actually is, that it pre-exists a lot of the known and talked about organized religions that we randomly refer to.
Yes.
And I always, it's kind of funny too, because you've heard me say it 1,000 times. Almost all of the organized religions stemmed or pegged somehow out of an older belief that was what we would consider paganistic. Even Islam has a much older background behind it, much older. So
Yes.
it's when you become familiar with that and you start looking at those beliefs and then looking at these things, you really have to wonder and think, was it really religion, or is it based on something that's more accurate, a little bit more real that we're just not
Right.
looking at? We were always told that their aging was very different than ours. And I think
I did a whole series, as my listeners would know. I did a whole series on the jinn. It lasted, I think, 7 episodes I did, and I was going every day back then. So it was 5 in a row and 2 more the following week on the jinn. And that was 2-3 years ago. And then I redid portions of that series with newer information about a year ago for 4 or 5 nights, and
yeah,
talking about the jinn. And we went into all of that about the background, where they came from, how old they are, the
yeah.
legends, and how old the legends are, and etc.
The lore said that the gems could move through time and space because they would sleep. But we have, if you go into Greek mythology and Sumerian mythology, there are mentions of that there too. Even
Yes.
current, even Grimm fairy tales. You had, what was his
Yeah.
name? The little guy that fell asleep, the troll that slept. I mean, these
Yes.
are all
Yeah.
things that are, you can see it. There's a fluidity to it throughout
Yeah.
chronology.
Exactly.
So it makes you stop and wonder, God, it makes me feel like in current times, you watch the TV and you're told it's not real. It's not real.
Yes.
It's fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. And then what you considered fiction, usually more in the sci-fi categories, but now we can even relate that to the news.
Mhm.
You're finding out that there's spotted truths everywhere,
Yes.
and it's really confusing but compelling. But
Yes.
then you remember that this is all at the behest of direction and production.
Exactly.
And then you've got to go back and say, well, was it the same historically? Everything we've
Right.
read, all that we've been left, it was always up to the scribes to describe how history unfolded. What if
Yes.
it's inaccurate?
Hey,
What if
Nancy,
it's,
I'm
yeah,
going to put you up and you talk for a minute. I've got to run upstairs for a second. You talk. I'll be right back. Okay.
Scotty's taking a pee break.
Yes, I am. All right. I'll be
All
right back. Keep
right,
going.
go. Yeah. So guys, you got to wonder, you know, exactly how was it recorded? I mean, I know for a fact there's a period in time between the 8th and 10th century where there was a pope that was installed who literally rewrote time and left out about 75 years worth of events. So even though we show a concurrent timeline, we're missing 75 years of history because a pope decided he didn't want it written. We had Henry VIII, who took history and rewrote it to how he wanted it, but yet that's the way it's taught to us. So it's one of those situations where you just have to get your head around it and say exactly what is true and what is not true, and will we ever know what is true and what is not true? I think now we have a little bit more of a discerning society. At least it's getting there. Some are happily still slumbering, but slowly we're progressing where people are saying, hey, okay, so what I just got told by the boob tube, which is called the boob tube for a reason, does not match what I'm seeing in real time. It doesn't match. And they're questioning that scenario. They're questioning what they're being told, what they're being sold, as I like to say. What are you being sold by your boob tube today? Whether it be things you don't need, whether it be things that you wish you had and then find out you really don't want, or whether it be news, current events, what's happening, what's really happening. So if they have that much control now and our population is considerably larger, what kind of control did they have then? And it controls the now, which is really crazy. It's like past proves future, future proves past, and we end up in the present somehow. So it's a really interesting set of scenarios. And I always love talking to Scotty about it because I know he gets it. He understands the amount of research that goes into things, and you can kick yourself a million times and fly around, but 99.9% of the time when you're working on these subjects, guess what? There's really no palpable answer. There's nothing you can put your finger on solidly and say, That's it. You can walk away and say, gee, I got some great theories, but there's no way as an intellectual person you can say, yep, that's it for sure. You just can't. There's no way to I guess you could say push that up as evidence, which is why, again, it cracks me up that we point to different things on the historical timeline and cite it as evidence when we can't say for sure if it's accurate. All we know is what we've been taught. Therefore, we take for granted that it's accurate. And maybe we as a society should stop doing that and start looking a little bit more carefully and critiquing a little more carefully as to what we learn, how we learn it, and how we digest it and use it moving forward. So hopefully Scotty is going to get done peeing real soon because I'm kind of missing him with his pretty pictures. And I can't see if anybody's typing anything from the chat room. I can't see anything. I'm just kind of sitting here talking. But like I said, if y'all get a minute, go on Scotty's Facebook because he's got some kick butt pictures. If you go back through his picture files from when he was in Egypt, I know he had a really incredible experience when he was there. I can still remember texting back and forth with him when he was over there. And trust me, yes, the envy ran deep in me, very deep. I'm real straight about that. Yep, envy was definitely on the high pavilion platform, but it's somewhere I'd always wanted to go. But when I was, when they were looking to do repeat, things got dicey over on that side of the world. So it became a little bit more difficult when I looked into the State Department warnings for going over to that area of the world. It wasn't advisable at that point in time. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to keep my happy little Wiccan butt over here and work from this part of the world. But yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm drawn to certain areas of the world. Egypt, Iraq, believe it or not, I'm drawn to Iraq. With Egypt, it's more the lower peninsula for me. I don't know why, but it is. Iraq, I'm drawn to the northern cusp of Iraq. Don't know why. Scotland, couldn't tell you that one for a million. I have no clue why I'm drawn to Scotland at all. It's not in my lineage that I know of anywhere, but it's a calling, and I just really, in the future, would love to visit that area. I mean, I don't know what it is about Scotland. I think it's the Moors. it's something about the Moors that just kind of called me. But yeah, Egypt, I don't even know if it's a history. It's just something about that area. It's like it sings to you. People say things attract them. That's how I feel about locations sometimes. It's like having a song you can't get out of your head. It's the best way to describe it. It's just a want to go there. You couldn't explain why. Just like that song in your head. For me, a lot of times it's Mana by the Muppets. Don't know why.
Yeah.
There he is.
I am back, by the way.
I was like rambling, saying, please,
yeah, I could hear you. I grabbed my phone and carried it with me as I went up the stairs, and I turned you on so I could hear, but I couldn't respond through the phone. So, hey, Flynn, my son just walked in. Come over here, Flynn. You can't see the picture, can you, Nancy?
Or can you? Hang on. Nope.
Oh, that's too bad, because there's Flynn.
Oh, I can see. There's Flynn. Hey, Flynn. Oh, my God, he got big.
Look at that. Look at the size of that kid.
So not right.
So you just turned 15.
Oh, my God. It's been, okay, wow.
Yeah, it's been 15 years. Hard to believe, huh? How you doing? You have a good night?
Yeah.
Good. I see you got a ride home. So that's the nice thing. I don't have to go pick him up.
Yay.
So.
I've been home for like an hour.
Oh, have you? Yeah, I've been down here. So, yeah, we got about 6 minutes to go and we're done. So, I'll see you when I come upstairs. All right. So, there's my son, Flynn, who you haven't seen in years. So, all right. So, but Nancy, thank you for being there, because if you weren't there, I'd either cut the show short or I'd have suffered for 15 more minutes.
No, that would have sucked.
Yeah,
we all know
yeah.
that.
Know how that goes.
But
and
it's
when
true.
you're my age, sometimes it hits you out of nowhere. And you're like,
Hey,
okay.
you're not that much older than me. Stop that right now, because I don't want to even think about that.
You're a youngin'
I'm not a youngin'.
compared to
Tell my
me.
grandkids that.
Yeah, really. I have
Grandma,
no grandkids, so you got one up on me there.
dude, I've got it. Let's see. My oldest grandchild's going to be 13. He's 13, actually. He turned 13 in August. So
Nice.
think about that. He's only
Yeah.
like 10, not even 10 years off where he could actually go reproductive. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at them going, okay, so here's lesson number 1. You do not want children until you're 30. Okay. So then time can catch up and I'm in my rightful place when you have children. Because I don't want to
Yes.
be called great grandma before I'm 60. That is not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's talking about Ozempic? Oh, Susie Q said Ozempic. Yeah, there must have been something you mentioned, Nancy, that she was responding to there.
Oh,
Do not
God.
believe your lying eyes. Ozempic. Right, Nancy. It's an intense search to find some facts and truth. Thank you.
Yeah,
She says.
it's true. I mean,
And
and
the
it
mystery.
can be.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I
Go
was
ahead.
just saying it can be really taxing looking
Yeah.
for it because
Yeah.
the further down the hole you go, the larger the hole becomes.
It's truth.
So it's the more you ask one question, you end up with like a million of them. When you've only gone one step.
Yeah.
So it's just a process, and you either love it or you hate it.
Right.
I don't think there's an in the middle.
So, where am I here? What's going on here? There, we got
You're thinking
that.
about
We
going
got
to the
that.
bathroom,
We got
water,
that. I'm just looking
drip.
for the right setting here, where it was. Everything's all messed up since I put you into full screen. There we go. I think we're side by
I did
side.
not touch anything.
I know. Yeah. You didn't touch the controls. Oh, here you go, Nancy. Here's the other one. Here's the middle child. Here's Rowan.
Stop.
Tell me she doesn't look like her mom. Here, step over here. Come on. Well, don't come down here then during the show. There she is. Come on. Why?
Because I just got out of the shower.
I just want people to. It's so what? You're still very pretty.
She's a
Come
girl.
here. I want
You
everybody.
see-
I want Nancy to see how much you look like Rainy. Look.
Oh no, I see her pictures. I saw her dressed. Oh my God, she's so cute. I saw her dressed for you had
There
posted
you
some
go.
pictures of the Renaissance festivals.
Yeah.
And I think I made the comment, oh my God, she's like an echo of Rainey.
Yes.
Yes. I
Yes.
still remember you guys trying to figure out her name. Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy? That's
Yeah.
like, I
Rowan.
still remember that.
I can't hear you unless you come over here.
Guess what I just did though?
What?
I got Lily to the bottom step and then she turned around.
Outstanding.
I know.
Lily is the dog we're fostering alongside of, and with the potential of keeping her. But she's been here for about a week now, and I got to tell you, the first 3 days I was like, nope, she's going. She's tried to bite us. She's tried to bite everybody. And I don't care if the dog's nervous. She's in a beautiful setting. Everybody trying to love on her, loving on Lucy, the other dog. She gets her food. She gets to sit with us up on the sofas and stuff. But man, if you reach for her collar or try to if she grabbed somebody's candy bar, there's a live example. She grabbed somebody's candy bar with the wrapper. Go, no, you can't have that. And you try to take it away. She'll bite you. It's like the other day, you little fucker, if you bite me, I will put you in the ground. And I yelled back at her, and I tried to grab her and turn her on her back. But of course, she's a smaller dog. It's like a what is she? She's a not a Frenchie, a Boston Terrier mix of some kind, brindle colored. So she's a cool looking dog. But man, she's constantly on edge. And she's white eyeballing you, the big round eyes. And I'm like,
All eyes.
I told her yesterday, and she started barking at me. I was trying to take a candy bar from her. She's not a pug, Susie Q. Subduing her when she's biting at you is really tough to do. Tough to grab her. See what I did when I trained dogs, I would take a dog and I'd turn that dog on his back and put my hand around their throat, not choking them, just holding them and trying to tell them, I'm the dominant alpha here, not you, little bitch. And sorry, pardon me for putting it that way. Not for effect, but that's what comes out when you're doing it. Don't you? Yesterday, she tried to bite me again for trying to take a candy bar away from her that's in a wrapper. And she quick ate it, wrapper and all. So she's going to be pooping out wrapper and cardboard, and because she was so afraid somebody's going to take her treat that she found. And I tried to take it from her. She tried to bite me, and I grabbed at her, and she's trying to bite me again, and she pulls away. She's barking at me and growling. And so I bent over, got up in her face, and I started barking back at her. I went, and I'm chasing her into the other room, barking at her. And her tail went down between her legs. And then I barked at her in language that she would understand. And then I yelled at her and I said, you fucking bite me one time, you are gone. I said, don't you dare bite me or any of my kids. And, they don't understand your language, but I think she got the intent of what I was saying. You knock that shit off right now, I told her. So.
Yep, they definitely understand the tone.
Yep. And because she's biting at you, it's too hard to grab her by the collar and flip her over. So I had to use other ways to do that. Yeah. Sue said, good, maybe that'll work. Yeah. So I've never had a dog of my own or that's been in our house since I was a kid that would bite us. I know how to handle a biting dog. If I was being attacked, that would be different. You're getting bit anyway. You're going to go for what you have to do. I've had to shove my forearm into the mouth of bigger dogs that are biting me. And you just I crammed my forearm into their wide open mouth because they can't bite down on you. Then you got a little leverage on them. You can push them down if it's a big dog. Then you subdue them. This little dog, and she's little. She's the size of Lucy, but she's biting at me and stuff, and you can't get a hold of her. It's like, I'm not putting my fingers down in there for you to bite them. Little shit. And so... And she's nice. And then she fell asleep next to me. I'm giving her belly rubs and stuff like that. But she's got that thing about her right now. I don't quite trust her yet. I'm rubbing your belly, but what's to tell me if I'm rubbing your belly, you're not going to get irritated 1 second and try to bite my hand. That's the kind of dog she is. So we don't know if she's going to be around here very long or not. The idea was, and she belonged to an old couple, an elderly couple that couldn't take care of her. She's never been trained. She doesn't even know what it means to come or to sit. She has no idea what those words mean. So hooking up, clicking a leash on her so we can leash train her to say, come, and then you lightly tug on them. She'll be standing there and we drag her across the floor when we say come. She gets close enough, she tries to bite your hands. And it's like, if you're going to be that way, nobody's going to want you. So we're going to have to work this out. I've had that conversation with her.
We adopted a Chihuahua pug. She was a geriatric. She was 8.5 when I adopted her, and she was traumatized.
6, by the way. She's 6.
Yeah. This little dog was traumatized, but it took about 1.5 years of just really gentle and consistent, I guess you could say nurturing and yet disciplining. Yeah. Where she when we first brought her home, she would bite anything that came near her. Like my poor cats were like, what is this?
Oh, yeah.
And why is it here? Even my little dog Pacoon, who was as gentle as a kitten, I mean, she would purposefully zoom in on him. So it just took time to let her know she was safe and that, she wasn't, nothing drastic was going to happen. There was always going to be food. There was always going to be water. She didn't need to get aggressive or protective.
Yep.
And she's actually, Rafi went from calling her Debo, because he wanted to return her to death row, as he said.
Yes.
To really, really enjoying her. Like, she's a great travel dog.
Well, that's good.
She's super affectionate. So
Well, this one, the only really real scuffles he has, Lucy will sometimes try to go, "Hey, this is my house," and we stop her right away. We're like, if you want to, promote your dominance, you go right ahead, but I'm not going to have fighting between these animals in my house. And so we break it up right away. If the cat is the other one, Bob the cat, Bob Saget, our cat, and he's a sweetheart. He doesn't have a mean bone in his body, but that doesn't mean he's not an asshole. Bob is not mean. He's just an ass. And so dog will come anywhere near him. Dog might not see him. And Bob will be like, and swipe at him for no reason. And then the dog starts barking, and the cat's like, gotcha. And so Bob's not mean. He's just an ass. So, yeah, they are hard to train. This one, I think when they're this age, 6 years old, they're independent. Susie says, or I think that's because they cannot scoop their own cat box. Oh, cats? Yeah. Cats are stupid. I don't like cats. I'm not a cat
and you're
fan.
gonna have a cat pee on your bed because they're
Yeah.
not stupid, dude.
Yeah.
They
Well, that
definitely
cat
can feel
will.
free.
I sometimes find the cat in the bed. I'll come down here to go to the office for something, and cat's laying on the bed sleeping. Like, hey, well, they make yourself at home.
Oh yeah.
When we get up in the morning, I make the bed every day, and so there's all the pillows are lined up on the cat's up on top of the pillows. Or if he gets into the bedroom at night, he's on top of my head. So it's like, don't get off my head. So he loves me. So he knows it. He just knows who's boss. So anyway, well, look at this. It's after 11 o'clock. We're done.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say I got to jump.
I got to get out of here, and I got to let everybody else get out of here too that's still hanging out. Nancy, thank you for coming in. And
Thanks for having me.
Hey, absolutely. And thanks for filling in for me when I had to have some filler.
Not
without
a problem.
warning. So
Not a problem.
all right, darling. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
See you later. Everybody else, it is 11:07 a.m. Central Standard Time. So it's afternoon out east, and it's a little after 9 a.m. out on the left coast. And so I want to thank you all for coming in this morning. And it was a fun conversation. It was fun when Nancy came in. And it's always fun to have somebody to bounce things off of. So it was nice of her to come in. So I thank you all for being here. We'll be back tomorrow night. Well, I got to weigh that one out. It's a holiday tomorrow, but by the time Intrepid Radio comes on, is 9 o'clock at night Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern. You're already at the end of your holiday weekend. So if there's not a lot going on, we'll do a show tomorrow night. We'll see how the day goes, the holiday day goes. But we should be pretty good for doing a show tomorrow night, just pending the holiday. So everybody, thanks for being here. Come back Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the Intrepid Radio program. And all of you that are out there, make it a plan. Be here, and we'll have fun with it tomorrow night. So, having said that, let's get out of here. And I am looking for my exit button. So hang on while we do this. I got too much junk open here is what it is. I hope you enjoyed today, by the way. Even if you've heard some of this stuff before, I hope you enjoyed what we were talking about. And it all kind of spin-tailed off of that picture that that person thought was gin. And so it's an interesting topic. And I hope you enjoyed that aspect of it. And so other than that, we'll get out of here. So let's see. I'm going to find where's our boom, 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 boom. Why does all my stuff pass out of existence here? We'll just throw this picture up at the end. So thank you, everybody. And I appreciate your being here. And we'll see you again next time. And until then, live long and prosper. Good night or good day. Have the rest of a fun holiday week.